We talked about some, I like to use the term limiting belief, right? Because there's a voice in the back of your head, and every time you try to do something more, it questions you and make you question yourself, and make you question your ability
Right.
to believe it. One of my favorite phrases that I tend to use is that your past is not your prophecy. So, what was the
Mm.
phrase, right? What was the phrase that helped you push through the difficulties that you encountered during this time?
Listen, because I've been through so much, right? Raised in the church, I knew God, but I didn't really know God until I almost lost my life due to
Mm,
domestic violence in 2012. And
yeah.
I believe this is the phrase that, wrote it down, looked at it when I'm going through my situations. Only God can turn a mess into a message, a
Mm.
test into a testimony, a trial into triumph, and a victim into a victor.
I'm sorry, I'm getting my pen out because I'm telling you, I always write down stuff I get from other people. Okay, a mess into a message.
Come
What
on
was the rest
now.
of it?
A
Come
test
on. What?
into a testimony,
All right, test into the testimony. Okay,
a
go ahead.
trial into triumph,
A trial and a triumph. I love it.
and a victim into a victor.
Mm, mm, mm. Man, listen. I wanted you to go over that again because I hope somebody else is writing just as well as I am. Um, I'm telling you, if we're not taking notes of these powerful messages that she is laying down right now, we're missing a huge piece. Especially if we find ourselves in any situation. It doesn't have to be one that's identical to what we're talking about right now. These messages are powerful.
Right.
I'm just was being 100. And for me, I love the victim into the victor because one of the things I've always said is that
Yes.
life happens through you. It doesn't happen to you. So what we have to understand
Fact.
is that the thing that is going on in your life was not intentionally targeted at you. It's not intentionally targeted at Dwayne.
That's right.
It's just one of those things in life that I got to go through. So what I need to understand is that in this particular scenario, I was never designed to be the victim, so I can't take the mindset of victimization. Whenever I take the mindset of victimization, I am always looking for a hero. Well, what we need to understand, the hero that we're looking for is within. So we have to make sure that we restructure that way of thinking. And we need to understand, regardless of whatever the situation is, we need to be able to find that silver lining that exists. That silver lining that exists is your mental escape of the situation. It may not fix the
Yes.
situation, but that's your mental escape route. That way that you don't sit around and have the older what I've used to hear growing up, the pity parties and things of that nature. The pity party does you no good, I promise
Right.
you. You can have a pity party all day long and you'll be the only person that attended. So get out of
And
the
stay away
mindset of,
from people who want to stay in your pity party with you.
man, listen. Man,
You
listen.
gotta stay
I
away
am,
from him. You
yeah,
want to get out, but then you stand around people who's feeding it. They're feeding
yeah,
it. They're loving it. They love to see you down. They love
yeah,
to see you struggling. They love to see you battling mentally and emotionally, and you dependent upon them. Let those people go.
absolutely.
I struggled for
Absolutely.
years with that.
Oh
Struggled
man.
for years.
Man.
Years, just wanting a family, just wanting to be accepted, just wanting to be validated.
Yeah.
And the whole
Man.
time it was hurting me because guess what I was doing? Going in circles.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
was a repeated cycle. Going back,
Absolutely.
going back.
And you know what? I so love what you're saying right now because here's the thing that we got to understand. Until we rewire, our hardwire
Right,
and start viewing things differently,
right.
we're just going to keep repeating the same cycle. It may be in a different location
That's right.
and it may be in a different
That's
situation,
right.
but it's going to start looking very identical because we haven't changed our perspective of anything. And once you learn to
Mm.
change your perspective, right? Once you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's really what happens. And I can't stress that enough. So man, this is just amazing because as I'm listening to you, I'm building up inside. I'm ready to have a party because I'm loving this. This is a victory conversation right here. Like this is a
Absolutely.
gateway. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is the gateway to somebody else's deliverance. Stop looking at the situation and look at the promise. Look at something bigger than
Come
what
on.
you're seeing. That's what we have to do, and I
That's
think this is
right.
very important. So just going back to your story and understanding, some of the things that you had to go. I see why these messages were so powerful for you. You had no choice but to excel because these messages gave
None.
you that way to it. Yeah, yeah. This
Yeah.
is this is
Yeah. I
awesome.
didn't. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. I mean, you're blessing me by doing this right here. I mean, this is, I mean, I can't think of a better way to spend my day right now. So this is good.
Well,
Now,
definitely, I was hoping to come and impact, inspire, and be very effective.
there
Okay,
she go.
so I wanted to make sure I was hitting it.
See, there she go. She's starting already. I'm telling you, this is so good. This is amazing. So I'm gonna ask a question, and I think this question is going to kind of shed some light. If the whole conversation hasn't really hit the point for somebody yet, I think this question will, because this
Yeah.
question allows us to think back and how can I give my younger self the thing that I have now. So if you could write a letter to your 20-year-old self, what would be a couple of
Ooh.
key points that you would give her?
So I really love this question, right? Because so many of us, we never heal the inner child.
Hmm.
A lot of times we keep that child safe. We put that child into this box to keep him or her safe, right?
Yeah.
But we never give that child an opportunity to heal and live.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of tearing up, right? Because I did write some notes down, but I want to share this because I know that it doesn't matter if you're a single mom, you're a single dad, you're somebody who's lost your job, you're somebody
Right.
that you're dealing with family issues, you're dealing with any type of issues. I know these key points or these things that I've written on this list will be able to help someone today.
Yeah.
So, number one is work on healing the little girl on the inside of me that held on to all of the abuse and negative thinking that was instilled along the way by family. That's number one. Do I need to repeat it?
No, don't pay me no attention. I'm just writing over here. You good?
My number two, how important it is to surround myself with people who are at a level I want to be in my finances, my future endeavors, and parenting. My number three, make time to spend time falling in love with myself by understanding what makes me happy and not so much of what makes others happy, by putting others' happiness before my own and neglecting my own desires.
Mm, mm. I'm loving this. By the way, go ahead. I'm good.
That's it.
That's it.
That's what I would have wrote my 20-year-old self.
Man, listen. I'm sitting here. I'm just looking at, and I took shorthand notes. So number one was work on healing self. Right. I think that's important. Number two is construct the necessary environment that you need to progress. You talked about finances.
Yes.
You talked about career, and there was a third point in there I missed. Can you help me out with
Parenting.
parenting? There we go. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know if many people grasp how key that is, because I've
Mhm.
always said the kind of parent that your parent is, you will either be the exact same parent or you put forth the
Right.
necessary energy to be the polarized opposite of that parent, one way or the other. But you're going to
Right.
learn from that parent. And I think this is key. I think when we look at things such as parenting and finances, what we understand is that there is a conglomerate of intelligences and experiences that we gather, and and add it to who we are, and
Absolutely.
that makes exactly the parent that we become. Or that makes the type
Absolutely.
of relationships that we get in, things of that nature. And so when we look at parenting, one of the things we got to understand that parenting is just another word for relationship. Friendship is just another word for a
Right.
relationship. Boyfriend and girlfriend,
Right.
husband and wife, just another word for relationship. And so, in essence, it's the vision or the lens that we view relationship in And that kind of helps us to understand the type of parent that we ultimately come out. So what we do is we put ourselves in the environment to where we continue to progress in our awareness when it comes down to these different aspects of
Yes.
life. I love it. Make time. Make time to. All I wrote down was make time to understand self. That was my shorthand
Mm.
version of it because
Come
I've
on now.
listen, listen. I've stop it. Stop
I can
it.
expound on that in so many ways. We could go down so many avenues. We can talk about this all day.
I'm gonna
Because
tell you why.
how often do we neglect ourselves?
Hmm, man, listen. I've Here's why I love it, and this is why I stopped at just understanding self. I created a class, right, and it is talking about self, and it literally breaks self into four different parts, right? So part one is self knowledge. Part two is self concept. Part three is self awareness. I'm sorry, not self
Yes.
awareness, self esteem. And part
Yeah.
four is social self. Those four things make up the total self. And so what you find is that they progress upon one another. So my self concept, which is ultimately my lens, is dependent upon self knowledge. So the less I
Yeah.
know about self, then what I do is I adopt somebody else's lens. Well, what
Come
I
on.
understand about that lens, it helps me to, have my self esteem, and that's how I express myself. In the way I
Right.
believe another person see me, which is also based upon my self-knowledge, is the way I behave around other people. So when we make time to understand self, we realize that the first place of correction is self, not another person. The other person, and I
No.
want to make sure I say this because there is and I've said this on several other podcasts, I'm going to continue to say it because I know it's to be true. There is a huge misconception with this thing called emotions. Let me back up because she talked about some things previously, and a lot of it had to do with emotions. What we have to understand is our emotions serve as a guide to help us to understand whether or not we harmonize
Yeah.
with the situation or not. It doesn't mean I need to change the situation, it doesn't mean I need to change the person. What I must do at that point, once I understand I don't harmonize with it, I go back to my source document, and I got a whole bunch of them back here. I go back to my source document. For me, it's the Bible, and I look at it and I compare the situation to what the Bible says about the situation. If it does not line up, then that means I am well within means to feel the way that I feel, and then now I need to have a talk with said person. However, if I look at the situation and I'm sorry, let me back up. I said that wrong. If it doesn't line up, if the situation isn't congruent with what the Bible says, then what I need
Mm-hmm.
to understand is that the situation is the issue, not so much as how I feel about the
Right.
situation. So I either remove
That's right.
myself from the situation or I have the necessary conversation within the situation. If the situation is congruent with the Bible, then I need to fix this right here. I don't even have to have a
That's right.
conversation about it. I need to look at me and fix this. And in the midst of
Yeah.
fixing me, I do not hold you hostage to how I feel. I think this is important to understand because this is the thing that drives a wedge in between people. This is the thing that prevent us from stepping outside of our comfort zones as well. So
I
when we
agree.
understand that,
I
then that
agree.
changes all of the dynamics. And all of this has to do with understanding self. And I
That's
listen,
right.
listen. My letter to my 20-year-old self would not be this extensive. I'm just saying. My letter to my
Wow.
20 it wouldn't. I'm just being honest. I mean, and this is a great letter, but I'm simple. Do something. That's what my letter gonna say. Do something. Don't sit around and wait for somebody to do it for you. Do something. Whatever it is you thinking, go do that. And it doesn't matter if it's right, wrong, just do it. If you fail, keep doing it until you get it right. Because here's
Right.
what we understand:
Right.
failure is not failure until you no longer try again. Failure
That's
is
right.
what we understand as lessons to be learned in the direction of success. So that's
That's
my
right.
letters, cliff notes. Do something. That's just it. Do something, bro. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you. That's what my letter would say. And so I would probably take your letter and copy
What? Listen,
Uh-huh.
let me tell you, my letter really, really comes from me wanting to tell my twin. I wish I had someone in my presence or in my life that I could have had those conversations with,
Wow.
who was a role model for me to look up to. By
Yeah.
that time, I joined the military at 18. So that was right before I, was impregnated with my second child, at 21. So if I would have wrote that letter to myself or had someone to talk to me about those things that I just mentioned, I'm telling you, I might have probably wouldn't even be here discussing this, right?
Well, we understand that the things that happen in our life, they're by a more divine design. And when we look at it, even though when in the midst of it, we don't see it at that particular point in time, we look back and say, man, if I had not been afflicted, it's just those things. So
Oh,
when we look at it and there becomes a level of appreciation for the things that we've been through, even though it was tough.
yes,
But man, that is what
absolutely.
creates the resiliency that has designed you to be who you are right now today. So man, this
Yes,
is for
absolutely.
again for anybody who's listening. This letter that she would write to herself, man, to start this letter right now for yourself. Start this letter. Here's the better part. Start this letter right now for your child.
Yes, that's so
Give
good.
them the thing that you did not have. Don't let them
Ooh,
fall on their face and figure it out and struggle and go through the mental anguish and the depressions and
right.
all of the. Give them the thing that you did not have. Take the time, energy, and effort. And this goes for me too. I'm not exempt from the story. Take
Yeah.
the time, energy, and effort to give them more than what you had. And if you gotta go, if you gotta fight odds to do it, fight the odds to do it. It's necessary.
Yeah.
They will appreciate it in the long run. Man, this is so